Okay, everyone. So let's carry on. There's not too many questions, so that's good news. So it's not going to take too long today. So, okay, Sukhi Hotu Ajahn. For someone who is meticulous and has a good memory, it is deemed as a form of attachment. Please advise. So it depends. Yeah, being meticulous and having a good memory doesn't have to be attachment. It depends on how you use that. If you use it in a way that you remember what people have done, and you kind of you are holding on to that or whatever, then it can be a kind of attachment. So it depends on how you use that memory and how you use your meticulousness. If you are meticulous and you get upset if other people don't follow those standards, then it is a kind of attachment. But if you are meticulous and you don't really worry so much about what others do, then it is not a problem. So everything in the world is about how we do things and what we do, not the things in themselves. So meticulousness is good or bad, depending on the other factors. And the same thing with having a good memory. It's about how you use these things that is important. Yeah? Make sense? So, all right. Okay, dear Ajahn, during a relative's funeral, some of us manage to maintain equanimity, but the deceased children thought we are indifferent. Is there a thin line between upekkha versus indifference? Yes, there is a thin line, but one of the problems I think in the world is that people have this expectation that you will be sad at the funeral. This is like almost in all cultures there is this expectation. But it is not really required to be sad. It's all about how you think about things, whether you make it sad or not. And if you think about someone's death in the right way, you will actually be fine. Yeah, you don't necessarily be very sad at all. And so sometimes the children of the deceased, well, maybe that will be an eye-opener for them as well. Maybe straight away they think that you are indifferent, but maybe down the track they will look at things differently. Sometimes we have to show the world that there is a different way of reacting before people actually understand that. So if they think you are indifferent, you have to explain to them that, no, we're not really indifferent, but because we thought that the deceased was a good person, and so we're happy for them. We're happy that they passed away in a good way, and they probably had a good rebirth, so what is there to be sad about? Nothing to be sad about. Be happy. Yay, they lived a good life. And now they're probably in heaven, and they're waving down to us and saying, carry on, live well, don't be sad, I'm okay. We'll meet again in the future. What is there to be sad about? It's like a holiday apart or something like that. So it's about how we contemplate these things. That really is the critical thing. And not that we have to be one way or another one. And if you really have to cry at the funeral, then you can hire those criers, who cry for you. Well, then you don't have to cry yourself, and you leave that job to someone you hire. Apparently that happens around the world. Many cultures have this idea of hiring people to cry in a funeral. It's quite a common thing, apparently. What about the difference between upekkha and indifference? Indifference is you don't care, You don't really care, whatever, who is this person, it doesn't really matter for us. But if it is someone who is really dear to you, someone you have affection for, and then you can have, then it's usually upekkha if you don't cry. Then it's not indifference. It's just a feeling you really rejoice in their good life. So there's a difference there. The difference is that if you feel that you have lost something, then you will cry. But if you look upon what you have gained and the happiness and the goodness of that person, then you feel a sense of appreciation and gratitude. Thank you for being part of my life. Thank you for making my life a better one. Thank you for being, a good companion or whatever. Then you feel gratitude. If you feel, oh no, I've lost this person, what am I going to do now? Then you're going to cry. That's the difference between upekkha and being sad, basically. Yeah, so I hope that makes sense. So let's move on. Dear Ajahn, when I was a student, I wanted to work. When I worked, I wanted to be a student. Now I am a lay disciple, I want to be a monk. But what if, when I am a monk, I want to be a lay follower? This craving is deceptive, always making me run from this and that, is never satisfied. How to approach craving wisely? Yes, so the grass is always greener somewhere else, right? This is one of those ancient sayings, and it's true. And so we have to be very careful not to always look for the greener grass, because sometimes the grass is just grass, and actually isn't that much greener after all. And so what you have to do is you have to ask yourself some simple questions, like, if I'm really interested in the spiritual path, where am I going to make most progress? Where is this going to work really well for me? How can I develop the best qualities? And sometimes that is as a monk or a nun, but maybe sometimes it is not as a monk or a nun. Maybe if there isn't any suitable monastery or suitable place or no one you find inspiring, maybe it's not going to be so great. And so what I would recommend you is to try it out. And if you try it out, go and stay in a monastery for a while and see what it feels like. Yeah, go and be an anagarika, go and do some service in a monastery for a few weeks, a few months even, and see what it's like. And if you enjoy it, then you can take ordination as a samanera, and you can be a samanera, a novice, for a while. If you enjoy it, carry on. If you don't enjoy it, you can disrobe. And after a certain time, some monasteries it takes a year, some places it happens very quickly, you can end as a monk. And if you really don't like it, you can always disrobe. Yeah. So don't cut all your bridges in lay life. Leave those things open. But the main way to decide is always this spiritual path. If that is what life is all about, how can I make the best progress? How can I overcome my bad qualities and develop the good ones? That should be the question that makes you decide what to do. Yeah. So you don't know exactly. Yes, craving can be deceptive, and sometimes you don't know until you try what actually is going on. All right. Dear Ajahn, I noticed that quite a few layperson disciples tend to give ang paos, red pockets containing money, directly to bhikkhus and bhikkhunis. Is this allowable under the Vinaya? What is the best way for layperson to support Sangha members financially? So, according to the rules of the Vinaya, you're not allowed to receive money. You're not allowed to be the owner of money, actually. You cannot become the owner of money, according to the Vinaya. However, not so many monks and nuns practice this rule. There's only a small minority who practice this. And it can be practiced in different ways. Some people can... Some monastics practice it very badly. They have big bank accounts and all kinds of things. And some just have a little bit of money to use for the bus. And of course, that makes a big difference. But I think the ideal way is not to have any money at all. It's actually very liberating not to have any money. It's a hassle to have money. Yeah, it's just you always have to think about it. You have bank accounts. You are afraid. You have to have a wallet. It's great. I don't have a wallet. Isn't that nice? I don't have a mobile phone. It's it's really liberating, some of these things that you don't have. I do have a laptop. Maybe I should throw out the laptop as well. So what should you do? So the way that we do things at the Buddha Society of Western Australia is that the Buddha Society acts as a steward for the monastics. And this is actually allowable under the Vinaya. Under Bhikkhu Nisagya Pacitta number 10, a layperson can act as a steward. And so what they do, they will hold some money for a monastic, and if the monastics need something, then they can use that money to pay for that. And that is kind of helpful, because it means that the monastic cannot use the money in bad ways. Because you can't go to the layperson and say, buy something dodgy or whatever. They have to use it in an appropriate way. So it's more overboard that way. you use it for good things rather than using it for bad things. And that's how it works in Perth. And this is the ideal way for monastics or lay people to interact. You have someone, even the BGF could be the steward, act as a steward for certain monastics if necessary, or other organizations. So I'm not sure how the Venerables here do it, but that's how we do it at the BSWA. So should you give money to a monastic who takes money? Maybe you should sometimes. It really depends on the situation. If you feel that it is a monastic who is very, very corrupt, then probably best not to do it. But if you feel it is a good monastic, except that they keep the rules, maybe not perfectly, but they are good monastic in other ways, then maybe you can. But in general, support those who practice the Vinaya in the best possible way. That's kind of the ideal. But don't also be too judgmental, because people often try their best, and sometimes the best is not perfect, but maybe it's still good enough. And that's kind of the idea here. So be a bit circumspect. Feel what is the appropriate thing to do. So that is what I would say. Okay, dear Ajahn, after death, our ancestor is reborn into a human, animal, deva, or peta. How can the ancestor as a peta remember or know us to come and share in the merit? They would have forgotten us right because they do not have past life memories. Well, this is the difference between peta and human beings. Is that peta, you just often just arise like that. You don't have to go through the process of being reborn. As a human being or an animal, you have to spend 9 months in your mummy's tummy and this kind of things, and that obviously has an impact on you. You are this tiny little fetus. Of course, you're not going to have any memories. But a preta doesn't have to go through that kind of rebirth process. You just arise, you are a preta just like that. And so preta will often have the memories. It's just like a continuation of their life here and now. And so they kind of are there. Oops, I'm in the same house. I've been all the time. And so they feel at home. This is my house. Well, who are you people coming into my house? That's maybe how the Peta would think. Go away. I don't like you, or whatever. And then they are attached to that house. So for the Pretas, it will be kind of, it's much kind of obvious what is going on. It will not have that, it will not have forgotten the life in the same way. What happens to the ancestor that gets the merit? Well, what happens is that when you make merit for them, they will rejoice in that if they do it in the right way. They will feel a sense of happiness that you're making merit, and and that happiness will enable them to be reborn somewhere else. Because if you're happy, then that is not compatible with living in the Petaloka, and so you lose that rebirth right there, and you can re-arise in heaven as a consequence. Is it a get out of Petaloka ticket? Exactly. You have got it right. It is a get out of Petaloka ticket, or it can be a get out of Petaloka ticket, but not necessarily, but it can be that. So that is the idea. So please do that. It's a beautiful thing to do, to share with your ancestors, especially your parents and the close ancestors, but really anyone. Why not? Okay. So, what is this? This looks like a long one. So this person has already left the retreat. I don't know if that was on purpose. Okay. Okay, let me read it out and see what it is all about. Free will neuroscience experiment. Dear Bante, sorry, this is not Q&A. That's how it starts. I guess you could be aware of the neuroscientist Benjamin Libet's free will experiment in the 1980s that concluded, yes, I'm aware of this, several seconds before a conscious decision is made to take an action, the part of the brain associated with that action has already started activating before we are even consciously aware of the decision to act. Scientists call this the unconscious readiness potential. Yes. My opinion is this is what the Buddha describes as anusaya in MN 18, the underlying affective tendencies that drive our decisions to act if we are not endowed with sati sampajanya and yoniso manasikara. What do you think? That experiment by Benjamin Libet is controversial, and other people have come to different conclusions. I'm not sure how much we should rely on that. Is this the anusaya in MN 18? Underlying tendency? I think the underlying tendency is even deeper than that, because the underlying tendency just means that something can arise at any time. So even before you have the unconscious readiness potential, even before that, the anusaya is always there. It is always underlying, waiting for some kind of stimulus to arise. So I think it is even deeper than what you're saying here. However, you are quite right. So if you have the more sati sampajanya, the more mindfulness and clear comprehension, and the more yoniso manasikara, the more wise attention you have, the earlier you will be able to see that anusaya is being activated. You can see what is going on in your mind, and you see the activation, and the earlier you catch that activation, the easier it is to deal with any defilement that you may have. So I would agree with that part of it. And then it is said, he says, just my comments connected with your upcoming talks. Oh, you're already talking about my upcoming talks. Okay, good. With sampajanya, we have the freedom to choose our response. Maybe, but maybe the sampajanya is itself a conditioned thing, right? So sampajanya helps, but sampajanya itself might be conditioned. Anyway, we'll talk about this more in the next couple of days. So I have, the news is, this is the last question. So it's quite intensive, right? I can see why you say, I kind of agree with you with the actually. It's good we come to the last one. Dear Ajahn, is working at an agrochemical company that produces pesticides will lead to bad karma because the pesticides are used to kill weeds as well as insects? Thank you, Ajahn. Is that bad? It may be not ideal. And, they have the idea of the wrong kinds of livelihood. And one of the wrong livelihood is to be in the weapons industry, right? Because if you create weapons, you're basically creating the things by which people will be killed. And this is like a weapon against insects. So using those weapons against insects, not ideal. So it depends a little bit on what you do in that agricultural company. If you are like the accountant, or you are working a little bit behind the scenes, then maybe it is not so bad. It's like you are a soldier. There are many kinds of soldiers. There are medics, for example, in the army, and the medics are those who look after people. So maybe if you're a medic, maybe you're making good karma rather than making bad one. So it depends a bit on your position. But is it bad? It is maybe not ideal. So if it is possible to have another job, it might be preferable. I don't know. It's very hard for me to know exactly how bad it is. It is not probably quite right livelihood. I don't think it is a terribly bad thing either. So, if there is another job, great. If there isn't, then probably you carry on until you find something better, maybe something like that. Not sure exactly what the right answer is in this case. Anyway, that is the end of this retreat. So there you are. We should finish up by paying respect to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha like we have done every day, because that is such an important part of this. So let's do that.